What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord, and no, I can't shout that any louder in fear that my voice might fail me. But we have our good buddies here from the Three Amigos. Mike Zuber, how's it going? Congratulations on an amazing event. You killed it. It was awesome.
Thank you very much. I will say, you were very missed. You were
I
dearly
appreciate
missed.
that.
I would say conservatively, 25 people asked me,
Awesome.
are you coming? About a dozen people said, is he going to be a surprise guest at the end? People were thinking you were getting on a plane and coming, it was awesome to see, because that really means that people like the Three Amigos. They know that we're cool together. We support each other, and frankly would do something like that probably if I asked or begged, but I didn't, because
100%.
I didn't want you to come across and go back, because you still have that thing called a job. So I wanted I wanted to be sensitive to that.
I have a job and 3 kids, 4 and under. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
so
lot.
not cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I didn't ask, but you'll be in Vegas.
1,000%. I'm helping plan it so I can be. So it'll be
So he
good.
will be in Vegas, folks.
I will, absolutely. And Dion, my man.
Howdy, I'm doing great. I think the biggest mistake at the first live in-person mastermind for one rental at a time was that we didn't at least have a cardboard cutout of Matt, because we could have done some voiceovers that would have been great.
That is a
Yeah.
lot of cardboard. FYI. That's a lot of, I mean, if they had just gotten like a roof unit delivered to the hotel, you could probably cut a piece out of that would fit. But outside of a roof unit, I don't know that you've got any cardboard big enough to actually get a cut out of me. But anyway, I digress. Guys, the thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about today, a little bit of a melt my face off number. So for those of you guys who know, the emergency rental assistance program that the feds had kicked off and put $51 billion into, for some states and for some counties is actually wrapping up. For my county, it has actually closed. They are not taking any new applications. And so I've started to do a little bit of research and ask people some of the numbers. And one number really kind of jumped out at me. And I think that this is coming from we all support Section 8 housing and housing vouchers. Mm-hmm. We all appreciate that program. I know that it's made a huge impact in your life, Mike. And mine, one of the things that we actually went to the program and said was, we're really bad at bringing in marginal tenants, and we're talking financially. And so we need help with that. And the only way that we can do that is if there's a program like Section 8, like housing, that helps them and counsels them on that side of it, where we can just be a good landlord for them and give them a nice place. But this emergency rental assistance program had come out, during the pandemic. $51 billion was put into it. My state is closing it, or my county is closing it down. Actually, the state's closing it down. They're not taking any new applications. One of the things that concerns me is government programs and how poorly they're usually run. And I think that housing has done a really good job in working with a lot of the different government agencies that I work with. I think Section 8 housing really deserves, in many areas, a round of applause for their really hard case managers. There are towns that I won't do it in. There are towns that I will. But here was a number that really, as I looked at the emergency rental assistance program, here's one of the things that bothered me the most. In that number, in one of the cities that I do business with, there were it's a population of about 30,000 people. There were about 1,100 renters or mortgage holders that were given assistance. 1,100. There's 30,000 people in my town. That's 1,100 households that were helped. I don't know how many households are in that city, but I would venture to say it's a fraction of 30,000. So 1,100 seemed like a rather large number to me, right, Mike? You're a math guy.
I'm doing the math, just trying to make some basic assumptions. You're talking, roughly speaking, conservatively 5% of households, roughly, just 5% with some basic assumption.
People. That's the issue. Is that
30,000? No, so I basically said 30,000 becomes 20,000 households.
Yeah, sure, could be. Yep, it could be.
And then I said 1,000 of 20 is 5%. That's how I got to 5%.
Yeah, sure, certainly. Yeah, and so that's a big help number, I think, right? For a temporary program. Seems like a big number to me. But I think what concerned me most is, I, being broken as like I am, I start diving into the numbers. The number that scared the daylights out of me was that 500 people out of the 1,100 people live below the poverty line of $22,000 a year.
So they lived below that before and after.
Yes,
Pandemic.
but now the rent was being paid for them. I
Of
think
course.
the thing that I see in that number is that obviously affordable housing is needed, but I can tell you that the typical house or the typical apartment where I am, a 2-bedroom apartment, is $1,500.
Oh, wow.
A 2-bedroom is $1,500 in the town that I'm speaking of. That's the average. That's the average. And so I look at that number and I say, is this a colossal failure to look at 1,100 people getting assistance, let's say 5% of households, but of 500 of them, half of that number, they couldn't have ever qualified for the unit anyway, no matter what. So it really was truly, let's get somebody in a unit. Let's give them a place to stay. But when the money runs out, it's now going to be kind of on the landlords to just figure it out.
Well, I think there's, yeah. So, obviously I love numbers. My brain's going 1,000 different
It
places
is.
with this.
Yep.
I think there's a couple of things in this. So I don't know the numbers in my market,
Sure.
but let's just assume they're similar.
Mhm.
And I guess it kind of paints a picture, two pictures. One is the 2 years of the pandemic, we saw increased demand for the average unit.
Yes.
And that was people being pulled up, right? People being pulled up that couldn't qualify under normal circumstances,
Correct.
could qualify because somebody else was paying.
Mhm.
So that
Exactly.
means they probably left roommate situations or mom and dad, or I'll just call them slumlord properties. I don't know what else to call them. And they went up in quality,
Mhm.
right? So they went to average. That now has to unwind.
Mhm.
And that probably means either A, they get roommates, right? They break the lease or invalidate the lease by adding human beings, which is right, because you don't approve them when they move in, but they could do that, share the cost. Or two, they just run out the clock in however long it takes to be an eviction. In your state, maybe that's 4 to 6 weeks. In my state, that's 12 weeks.
Yeah, about 4 to 6.
And then they go backwards again. And oh, by the way, now they have an eviction on their record. So that's not going to be any fun.
If you have an eviction, you don't qualify for housing in our state.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'm thinking about is our system is broken,
Totally.
right? If there's that big a percent of your area that's living that far below the poverty line,
Mhm.
that's the real problem.
Mhm.
Let's not, I mean, what is going to happen now to landlords is going to suck. You're going to spend money on evictions. You're going to have to turn units. Tenants are going to have to downselect. That's all bad, bad, bad.
Mhm.
But the crux is we have too many human beings making below the poverty line. That is broke in this world of 3.7% unemployment, of 5 or 6% wage inflation. Something is wrong. There's something
But
before wrong.
yeah, so real quick, before we cry for me, Argentina, let's just do some real quick math again. $16.50 per hour is what McDonald's is paying right now. Times 40 hours a week is $660 a week. $660 a week times 4 weeks a month. We'll just give it that number, but we're $660 a week times 4 weeks a month. So we're right around $2,640.
Mhm.
So we're $2,640 times 12 months means you're at $34,000. Means that you're actually $12,000 above the poverty line. So what
So
we're
there's-
talking.
There's two ways to be at that $22,000 mark that the people are at. The first is you make $10.57 an hour.
Yep.
The second is you work part-time.
Correct. Or don't work at all and are only benefits.
So that's the thing that's missing from both of your equations, where I don't see the problem being as big as it could be.
Mhm.
So I ran the truck driving school, and we had several employees that were at that several years ago, $16, $17 an hour. They're all in the 20s now.
Sure.
Several raises in the last few years. But we'd have a single parent employee and we'd say, hey, you're doing a great job. We'd like to give you a raise. And they go, oh, no. Don't do that. I'll
Right.
take a bonus, but don't give me a raise. Because I get $2,200 a month in child daycare subsidies. I get Section 8 housing. I get, like, they named off like 3 things they get as long as they made $16 or $17 an hour or less. As soon as they went above that threshold. So if there's people, half of these people of the 500 are at that 22,000 a year or less. What other benefits do they have? And that's why, and I'm not saying my system is better, but I'm saying that there are landlords out there like me who've never asked or cared what someone makes for money. I look at credit score. I have tenants that make less than $22,000 a year, but have every benefit that there is out there and have an 831 credit score.
Sure.
So, yes, it sucks. What sucks is the human nature. They've had their rent covered every month, no matter what they make, whether it's $10,000 a year or $100,000 a year. They're not preparing for the month when the spigot gets turned off. That's where the problem is.
It's now we give a 90-day notice, a 60-day notice, and a 30-day notice, letting them know that their benefit's expiring. And 0 for 6, 0% of people have made that first month's rent payment. So I think that if we look at programs, I think that the major mistake that government consistently makes is not having an exit strategy. I think the program, while well-intentioned, is going to be paving the road to hell with good intentions. Because I know that for me, we've actually been proactive, gotten in front of it, met and discussed with all of these tenants, recreating something that's a plan that might allow them to stay there temporarily while still paying, but maybe an agreed to rate. That way they can take the position to then move into the next spot. So it's not so disruptive to their kids. The problem is a lot of landlords that are a lot smaller probably can't afford to do that.
Mhm.
And so I think that, again, Section 8 and the Housing Authority has done an amazing job. And sadly, when these programs were put together, I think it was not very well thought out to actually understand what the other side of that was looking. And it's, let's hurry up and just help these people right now. But the biggest plea that I saw was them saying, we have hundreds of people that will be homeless if they don't get funding from somewhere. And I think that that's misguided. I think that those people have had 10, 12, 18 months. I can tell you that I've seen them have 30, 40, and $50,000 of benefit from the program. And for that person to then not come up with month number 1, that says far more about the person than it does about anything else in the situation. Thoughts?
I would figure out a way to streamline the qualifying for benefits on with regular housing authority from the emergency at that 90, 60, 30, get the process started. In our state where I'm at, it's a 5-year wait. So it's not really going to help. But if you have that emergency,
it's 2.5 years. Because we went down that road. We went down trying to help them with how we actually tried to reach out with them and say, get on the list now when they first started renting from us. We didn't know how long the program was going to last. Mike, any final thoughts on this?
I think there's a couple of things. The pandemic, the $8-9 trillion, whatever the right number is, risk capital being 0, cost of capital being 0, caused a lot of people to enjoy free money. A lot of people made wild profits day trading or crypto or whatever it is, real estate, right? Flips and burrs and Airbnb arbitrage. Money was easy. History says when money is easy, people don't prepare for the future because they think the good times will never end.
Right.
They ended. And I will say it here again. I think 2023 is going to be the worst macroeconomic year of my adult life. That does not give me pleasure to say.
No.
But frankly, the 3 of us have been planning for it.
Yeah.
And the 3 of us will be just fine.
Agreed.
But there's going to be a lot of pain because people don't plan. There's no financial education. I'm 0 for 4. So I had 4 tenants who had their rent paid for at least 16 months. 3 of the 4 for 18 months. And all 4 of them have been evicted. And all 4 of them because again, my property management team will follow tenants on social media. All of them were traveling and doing very enjoyable things on someone else's dollar. And now there was just no it's sad, but frankly predictable, unfortunately.
It is. That's kind of how I feel about it. Mike, where can everybody find you, my friend?
One rental at a time.
Cold.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't come. I
Zooms.
didn't want to get blamed.
Zoom's the transmitter.
You can
So
find
I
Mike.
would like to take this one more step.
Please, yeah.
You have tenants in place who are getting their rent covered,
Yes.
and it's human nature to go, okay, when that's cut off, they don't pay the next month's rent, right?
Yes.
There are landlords out there, probably with smaller portfolios, who were just starting out, who saw an emergency housing voucher program that paid 10-20% more than what Section 8 would pay as easy money. And so they've had their tenants' rent covered, which covered their bills, and they know that program's ending. There are owners who don't have a portfolio of your size. A portfolio of my size, this is the reason why I didn't take any of this money.
Sure.
And that gets cut off. You have to plan that the tenant will not pay the next month. You will probably go through an eviction, or you will have to make some adjustment, which borderlines on discrimination if you're giving a break to someone, but you don't give it to someone else just because of the program they were on. So like there's all these risks that I think there's a bunch of landlords out there who jumped on this money and are just like their tenants, not planning for the income to stop.
Yeah, one of the things that we've actually done to make sure that we're not discriminating is what we actually did was we did a special packet. We did a package for those tenants because the program said we want everything included, kind of one lump sum. We don't do that for any of our other tenants. And so we enabled that and put that together because they said this is, and we wanted to help the situation. And no good deed goes unpunished. We know that we meant something to those 12 people that we helped, or 14 families that we helped. And we're going to do everything we can to keep them in, but we have to completely change the way everything was set up and basically go back to, kind of breaking things up. And we're still working on what we're going to have to do. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think at the end of the day, we thought we were helping. And I think at the end of the day, all I did was exacerbate a bad situation. No good deed goes unpunished, I think. So lesson learned on my side, but Dion, where can everybody find you, my friend?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. And I thought that was the question you were starting with when I interrupted Mike so rudely. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. Yeah, like I said, I mean, we always try and create great content for you. I just wear my heart on my sleeve, tell you exactly the way it is. Thankfully, this email came in while I was still online with these guys, so that way I could melt their faces off with some facts and numbers. But you guys, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll check you guys out in the next one. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Ciao.